Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 129 of Toss, the Tristain on Sports Show. It sure is your main man, T-Squared, Tristan Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us. This week, we got to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. We're getting close to playoff time, and the road goes through Milwaukee. We'll discuss. The Milwaukee Brewers are back on the field. The regular season has begun. Crew? A good squad? With a good start? We'll discuss. And then the tall sweep, we got to talk about the men's and women's NCAA tournament. And we got to dig in on the XFL. What did I see in week 7? What am I predicting for week 8? Well, you know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of sports in the state of Wisconsin. That's why we call it State of the State. And let's talk about those Milwaukee Bucks who just finished up their game as we record this program on the Wednesday night. Just finished up their game with the Chicago Bulls. If you've been looking at the space on Facebook, that's facebook.com/TOnSportsShow, you would know that I laid out the scenario. With the Celtics loss or with a win of their own against the Bulls, the Milwaukee Bucks would clinch the number 1 seed, not just in the Eastern Conference, even though, that's the only seeding that matters when you talk about a seed. But not only would they clinch the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, they would clinch home court advantage throughout the NBA playoffs. That includes an NBA Finals matchup should they make it that far. Now, with health, you would believe they would make it. Talk about a sparkling record, now 58-22. Again, the best record in all of the NBA. Top seed in the East. Home court throughout the entire thing. But now there's some injury concerns. We saw Pat go down with a sprained ankle in Washington just last night. Grayson Allen's still not back. Giannis came in warm-ups to give it a go. He's been dealing with knee soreness all year. Decided, you know what? This don't feel too good. And you know, if Giannis is saying, man, this don't feel right, then there's something up. Now, again, he's been battling this all year, but now we're in playoff time, and maybe you could chalk it up to facing the Bulls who, yeah, they clinched the play-in spot. They're currently in that 10 spot where they would have to play 2 games to get the 8th. Chalk it up to going up against a team that isn't exactly top caliber, and you guys not really having a ton on the line. Number 1 seed is very, very important, but we saw last season they opted to keep guys healthy, get some rest, to gear up for a playoff run. It was unfortunate that Middleton went down in that first round against the Bulls last playoff season. Nobody foresaw that, but you want to come in as healthy and as rested as possible. Mike Budenholzer prioritized that last season. They end up going to a lower seed. But this season, it was right there for them. Hey, why not go after it and then get the rest afterward? And you feel like they did that. Bucks are a good squad with or without Giannis. And I'm not saying if they're missing Giannis that they're going to go and be a 50, 60 win team. But this season, they're 11-6 without him, and that's because of the way the roster is constructed, the depth that they have, the production they're able to get out of guys. Now, your concern from tonight's game against the Bulls comes in the first quarter when Chris Middleton left with what they're calling knee soreness, and you can see him grimacing after he made a move. Did not return to the game. And you hear Chris Middleton and knee, and you start to tense up a little bit because that's exactly the reason why he was out last playoffs. Here we are, mere games before you really get to that second season, the most important season. Because let's be clear, this is the season the Bucks are judged by, playoff season. When it's finally looking like you're going to have your entire roster, where you're going to have every single one of your guys healthy, especially your key guy. We know Giannis is key, but Middleton is the key. Now you're unsure about how much time he may miss. Now you're hoping that this is more of a precaution thing with Giannis, with Pat, with Grayson, with Middleton. But it just brings up some bad memories. I said it on Twitter, at the20double. Go ahead and follow me. That if Middleton misses extended time, the Bucks championship chances are cooked. That's not hyperbole. Yes, this team is deep. Yes, this team finds a way to win in the regular season without Giannis or without Drew or without Chris. They're 58-22. They've been able to win with a multitude of lineups. They've been able to win with some of their stars missing. People forget Bobby missed time. Chris missed time. Giannis has missed time. Drew has missed time. Pat's missed time. Grace has missed time. I mean, there have been a lot of guys who have missed time. And yet that wheel keeps on moving. But this is the time where you need every single one of those guys there and available and healthy and productive. Because in a 7-game series, teams are going to try to figure some things out about you, things they can exploit, things you do. How can they counteract that? They have more time to hone in and study you and get a hold of the things that you do and try to pick them apart. The only way to counteract that is to have your best guys available and healthy and productive. So we all are holding our breath with Chris Middleton right now. Again, you hope it's just something precautionary. Now that the Bucks have clinched the best record in all of the NBA, the number 1 seed in the East, home court advantage throughout the entire NBA's playoffs, that includes the NBA Finals, should they make it there. Now you can kind of start putting guys down on the bench and give them some rest. You don't need to win another regular season game. There's 2 games left. You're 58-22. Would it be nice to go 60-22? Sure. To have that nice round 60 number. Of course, it would be great. But I would much rather have these guys healthy and rested and ready for the rigors of a playoff run than to have a nice round 60-win season. Rather 58 with a ring than 60 without. That's just how I look at it. But the Bucks can't even just call them the Eastern Conference's number 1 seed. You have to call them the NBA's number 1 seed because they have secured home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs, including the NBA Finals. That just bears repeating. And for a team this loaded, this deep, the only thing that can curtail them is health. And there's questions about it right now as we speak. You're hoping it's precautionary. We'll keep an eye on it. But it bears watching. Continuing here on Toss State of the State, we got to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers. Yes, they are back. Yes, they make their return to Toss because there really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about with the Brewers. I am on the record the last time I spoke about them and said I am not that excited about the Brewers because it feels as if they haven't done anything differently. I'm not saying they have to go out, win free agency, win the offseason, but just make some moves that make sense. Now, they did make some moves, but you just had to sit and wait and see how they pan out. Now, we're a week into the season. Full week into the season. The Tampa Bay Rays are MLB's lone remaining undefeated team. They're 6-0. A lot of people were probably thinking the Brewers are going to be 0-6 at this point. Now, I'm not one of those people that believed they would be 0-6, but I damn sure didn't believe that they would be 5-1. Yes, your Milwaukee Brewers, as we speak, currently, right now, are 5-1. First in the Central Division. I know it's too early to be talking about first place in the Central Division. You're only 6 games in, but this is the Brewers we're talking about. This is a great start. Nobody expected this. Maybe the people in the locker room will tell you, oh, we expected it. We knew what we brought to the table. And yeah, that's great player speak. That's great coach speak. But come on, you didn't even expect 5-1. A big part of it is what is always a big part of their winning, and it's the pitching. Now, save for one pitcher, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But the other part of that is that the offense actually showed up. Now, in that first game, the season opener against the Cubs, they were shut out 4-0. The pitching did their job. Yes, they gave up 4 runs. But the offense didn't do theirs. And just looking at it, it's like, okay, all right, here we go. This is what we expected of this team. All the pitching in the world, and they can only keep other MLB teams off the board for so long. You got to score them some runs. You got to help them out. So here we go. So they dropped that first game to open the season. And then they start to get some offense, and the pitching continues to be good, and they win that game. And then they go for the series win against the Cubs, and then they win that game. And then they come home for the home opener, and everybody's there. Everybody's excited because now the Brewers are 2-1. And maybe we actually have an offensive-laden team with some pitching. Maybe we can actually do some things. And then they win that one. And then the next game. And not only did they just win that one, folks, they shut the Mets out in the home opener. Pitching is definitely good enough to shut teams down, but to shut them down 10-0, you're not going to cover off the baseball. Then you come back the next night, you shut them out again, 9-0. You're still not going to cover off the baseball. Then you come in this afternoon. You end up in a little bit of a fight. But then you get young Garrett Mitchell, who was good last season, exciting player, good and exciting this season. Walk-off home run, you win 7-6. Get the sweep of the Mets. Improve your record to 5-1. Nobody saw this. The young guys are carrying this team right now. The Mitchells of the world who had the walk-off home run today. Bryce Terang, Weimer, Brian Anderson, and I don't mean the announcer. How many times have you seen the Brewers outscore teams? The Brewers outscored the Mets in this 3-game series 26-6. 26-6. Those 6 runs for the Mets came in today's game. And they were all given up by one pitcher, Corbin Burnes, who has a 9.64 ERA in his first 2 starts. Now, you got a lot of people calling him a bum. You got a lot of people saying, oh, see, that's why the Brewers didn't want to give him that extra $750K and this, that, and the third. And I say point back to last season because he didn't exactly get off to the best start then either. Corbin Burnes will be fine, folks. Let's stop overreacting. It's 2 starts early in the season. Takes him a little bit to get his feel, especially for that cutter. Location will come back. He'll heat up. He'll be in consideration for the Cy Young Award yet again. So let's not overreact to Corbin Burns' start. He's not a bum. He did not deserve to be shorted by the Brewers. It's still a bad move by the organization. Let's be clear about that. Some of the best pitchers go through rough spots. Some best pitchers go through rough beginnings of their season. That's just what happens. That is the game. He will be fine. And you just hope. The offense that we've seen is the offense that you get throughout the season. Now, I know you're going to have your ebbs and flows. It's going to be some struggles with offense because it's a long season, 162 games. You're not going to consistently be knocking the cover off the baseball. You're going to go through your slumps. I get that. But if you can get some consistency, which is what the Brewers lacked, because you've seen stretches like this from the Brewers' offense where they're just knocking everything out the park. They're slapping the ball all over the field. I'm sure the rules with the pitch clock and the batter in the batter's box and the shift rules, that's all going to help. But you just want it to be consistent. You just want to see them consistently put up runs on the board. You're hoping that this offense is not fool's gold. So while the 5-1 start is very exciting, very exciting, and it gives you hope, you just pray that it's not false hope. You just pray that this isn't fool's gold and it's something that is sustainable throughout the entire season. We'll keep an eye on it as we always do. But, man, what a start for the Milwaukee Brewers. 5-1, first in the Central. Good first week for them. And that's the state of the state. The Milwaukee Bucks clinched the top seed in the East. Home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs. That includes the NBA Finals, should they make it. In the Milwaukee Brewers, with a start that nobody saw, 5-1, the young guns are carrying this squad. Corbin Burns will be fine, folks. Stop overreacting. All is well. Good start for them, but you hope it's sustainable. It's time for us to run the tall sweep. TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. If it's truthful, opinionated, passionate, it's got to be Toss, and it's got to be TossNationMedia.com. It's TossNationMedia.com. A quick note, back in the state of Wisconsin, Wisconsin Badger basketball fans, men's basketball fans, got a bit of good news today. Tyler Wall announcing that he is returning for another season. Most people felt that maybe he was going to end his Badger career, maybe declare, maybe go into the transfer portal. Nope, he's coming back. A bit of good news to really end what was an otherwise dismal 20-15 season that ended in the semifinals of the NIT, which was won by the very team they got beat by, the North Texas Mean Green. 30-plus wins for them in the NIT championship, so you can't hate on that. But a little bit of good news for the Badgers. But let's get into the Tall Sweep. NCAA, men and women's, Final Four. Congratulations to the LSU Lady Tigers, national champions, as well as the UConn Huskies, men's national champions. I did have LSU Lady Tigers going to the championship game. I just had them going against South Carolina and eventually falling to South Carolina. As you can see, that definitely did not happen because Caitlin Clark put South Carolina out almost single-handedly, but could not do the same with LSU. Angel Reese and crew put in work, did the job. won the Natty. That should be what everyone is talking about, but everybody's talking about what Angel Reese did. Angel Reese doing the "you can't see me" in Caitlin Clark's face, and then she's walking up to her and following her around all around the court and tapping her ring finger and she's just classless, and everybody's just calling her out of her name, and there's a lot of dog whistles going on about it, and it's disgusting, and y'all telling yourselves, and you need to stop it. It is completely disgusting, absolutely unnecessary for y'all to be doing that. Angel Reese has played with fire all season long. That is her personality. That's how she's always played. She is a competitor. Same with Caitlin Clark. She did that, the "You Can't See Me" by John Cena, who got it from Tony Yayo. You just changed it up a little bit, but I digress. She been doing that all season. But she really did that against Louisville. And the announcers are laughing about it, and oh, what a competitor, and oh, man, this is great. She told Von Lith of Louisville, "You're down by 15 points, shut up." When she does it, oh, what a fiery competitor. This is great. But when Angel Reese does it, oh, she's classless. She's this, she's that. And it's ridiculous. Caitlin Clark already came out and said, look, Angel should be getting any flack for what happened. I'm paraphrasing. We're both competitors. Angel Reese had her comments about it. Look, like, she is who she is. And this is how I could tell that a lot of people who were commenting have never seen Angel Reese play except for in the Final Four, and really didn't pay attention to Caitlin Clark's antics either. Last season or this season, they're two confident, very good basketball players. Fiery competitors, the both of them. We should not be taking LSU's moment away to talk about this, but at the same time, you also need to speak about them exactly the same way. AKA keep the same energy that you keep with Caitlin Clark when you direct it at Angel Reese. She's a fiery competitor. She's a good basketball player. She's the most outstanding player of the tournament and a national champion. Address her as such. Let's move on from that, because that just gets me fired up. It's just absolutely disgusting. Some of the words that are coming out to describe her, all the dog whistles that are coming out to describe Angel Reese, and it's ridiculous. Stop it. Let's keep running the tall sweep, and let's get into the XFL. Now, y'all know I keep track of the XFL. I've loved the XFL since its first inception, way back in 1999. You talk about Tommy Maddox being the MVP, him winning the only XFL championship game. Yes, the only one, because they didn't get through the second season because of COVID. And now you're on the third iteration, and it has been fantastic. Take a look at the standings in the North. The DC Defenders are on top, followed by St. Louis and Seattle. The Vipers are down there in last place, but they're in a dangerous spot because they can play spoiler to a lot of teams. That's the North Division. In the South Division, you got the Houston Roughnecks still on top in first place, but they've lost 3 straight. That's followed by a now under 500 Renegade squad, a 2-5 Brahma squad, and the Guardians, who picked up their first win against DC. That's why DC is 6-1 now. Guardians now 1-6. Who would have thought that happened? I did not see that coming. Whether it be by 1 point or half, it does not matter. DC got knocked off by the Guardians. Now you can see the Guardians were putting up some big plays, but they just needed to put together a complete performance. I don't know if it was so much that they beat DC as DC beat themselves, because DC let a lot of plays happen that they don't typically do. They were not good defensively in week 7. Maybe it's a little bit of a big game letdown. Talk about the first Monday night game in XFL history. Against, at the time, a 4-1 Roughneck squad. They got past them to get to 6-0. I mean, it happens a lot where you have a big game and then you have a letdown after a big game. And that's kind of how I feel about what happened in week 7 with the Defenders and Guardians. I felt the Defenders just kind of came in lackadaisical, did a lot of uncharacteristic things, and got bit. Got bit by the only winless team in the league. And that's why when I say, oh, it's a proposed or a potential winnable game, it's because, and that's why they play the games. Because you never know. You look at it on paper, 6-0, 0-6. You got to give it to the 6-0 team, right? Nope. That's why they play the games. You just never know. If you look at the South is getting a lot more interesting. You had a Roughneck squad that was, at the time, 4-1 when they met DC on that Monday night game. You thought, yeah, they're definitely going to win that division. I mean, it'll be by a couple of games. They don't have quite the same margin as DC does, but they should win that division. Well, now you're not so sure. They're 4-3. The Renegades continue to blow chances to tie and overtake them. The Brahmas had a golden opportunity to really get back in firm playoff contention. They're currently 2-5. You got to remember, it's only a 10-game season. You got 3 games remaining. You got to make a move and make it soon and hope for some help. But they blew a golden opportunity. Now, teams that did not blow an opportunity to take a step forward, St. Louis, they improved to 5-2. As did Seattle, they improved to 5-2. They might be playing some of the best football in the league outside of DC. Now, I know you're going to say, St. Louis is 5-2 and they're ahead of them because they won the head-to-head matchup. That was way back in week 2. Seattle's a completely different team. Now, they still turn the ball over way too much for my liking. Ben DiNucci throws the football to the other team way too much for my liking. And you saw him mic'd up. Oh, that was the first throw I missed. Doesn't matter. You missed too many. That's why you lead the league in interceptions thrown. You got to stop that if you're going to be a championship team. You have absolutely got to stop that. That is going to be the one thing that bites them. Turnovers. But they limited those turnovers, even though they still turn the ball over. Again, Ben DiNucci is the main culprit here. They brought those turnovers down. And now that's why they've won 5 straight ball games. That's why I called them a potential monster lurking. Because they got it all defensively. They could do the job defensively. Their defense single-handedly kept them in games until the offense decided to stop giving the ball away to put points up on the board. But once that offense figures it out and gets a little bit more consistent, because they have an explosive wide receiver core, and they can run the football. They can salt the games away. I like this squad. What they do travels. Play defense. Again, if they can stop throwing the football to the other team, they stop dropping it, putting it on the carpet, damn good team. DC game definitely travels. Tough defensively, physical run game. I like what they bring to the table. St. Louis, they tend to start really playing when the fourth quarter rolls around. Not every game, but more games than not. You would like to see them handle business a little bit sooner. They did so last week. You hope to see that continue. But you got some really important matchups coming up in week 8. You got the Vipers going to the Battle Dome in St. Louis to go up against the Battle Hawks. And again, the Vipers are in position to play spoiler. They're not making the playoffs. I do believe they've been eliminated from contention because only the top 2 teams in each division make it. So they're out of the running. But they got a chance to kind of ding St. Louis in their pursuit of that second spot in the playoffs. Currently, again, they're only a game back of DC. So it's not like they're out of contention for the division crown. But DC has been very good. You think they'll bounce back in their game. But that's a big game as well. We'll talk about in a second. Probably the biggest game of the weekend. But the Battlehawks can't look past the Vipers. They've got to handle business. That is a trap game. The Renegades cannot look past the Guardians. Renegades are currently second in the South at 3-4. Yes, the Brahmas are behind them at 2-5. Again, that's not over. With the Roughnecks struggling the way they are, that's not over. They can still win that division. They can still get that second spot and head to the playoffs. So they got to take care of business against the Guardians. That's on Saturday. On Sunday's matchups, a huge matchup in the South. The Roughnecks and Brahmas going at it. You talk about the first place team, division leading Roughnecks, going to the Alamo Dome to face the Brahmas, who are in third in the South, but again, only a game behind the Renegades. You know, the Brahmas are going to be in desperation mode. You know, the Roughnecks are going to be in probably in desperation mode because they want to stay in first place to ensure themselves a playoff spot. That's a big matchup, but probably the biggest matchup of the weekend. Close out week 8 in the XFL. DC heads to Seattle to face the Sea Dragons. Big game in the North. Defenders want to wash that nasty taste of losing to a winless football team out of their mouths. Seattle, hottest team in the league. Playing some good football outside of the turnovers from DiNucci. You win that ball game, you are now tied for the division lead. Both squads will be 6-2. That's huge. So a lot of intriguing storylines going down to week 8. I'm very excited to see what teams make the playoffs. I'm very excited to see can't even speak. That's how excited I am to see how week 8 shakes up. Important matchups all around. These games continue to get bigger and bigger. Man, I am loving the third iteration of the XFL. Good football. Y'all need to get eyes on it. Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. That was episode 129 of Toss Tristain Sports Show. You know where to find me on social media at the20double on Twitter and Instagram. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. Follow me for all these shenanigans. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Home of the Toss on Facebook page. Touching a lot of things there that we don't necessarily get a chance to here on the show. That's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And of course, TossNationMedia.com. Your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truth, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. T-Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. always forward. Forward always. Until next week, so long from Toss.